Quiz time, do you remember Mary from Pokémon Gold, Silver, and Crystal? Of course you do, she's loved by everybody in the Johto region. So Mary, one of those Pokemon characters that I think nowadays you might classify as obscure, was introduced back in Generation 2 to show off the amazing radio feature. Yeah, oh boy, we still talk about radio nowadays, definitely. As a character, I think she is pretty interesting, introduced as the co-host of Professor Oak's radio show. The two of them actually work pretty well together. When you utilize the radio to listen to their show, or just read the text that's going to be displayed on the screen because there was no voice acting, you get some neat little tidbits about Pokemon. And of course, when you do actually visit the radio tower in Goldenrod City, you can meet her there, which means that later on when Team Rocket takes over the radio tower during the climax of the game, she is involved there, or at least, is one of the hostages, and when you complete that event, she'll thank you with a gift. And while we got to see a good amount of her back in Generation 2, which a good amount of people might remember, I feel that maybe she and Professor Oak are a little more associated with the radio show in Generation 4 because it had the added capabilities of letting you know where there were mass outbreaks. But when it comes to the overall feeling of Johto as well as its connection to the Kanto region, I feel that Mary is the perfect personification. As I joked about, radio is definitely something that we don't talk a whole lot about in the modern day, and honestly even back when the original games came out, it really wasn't at the cutting edge of information or entertainment. This was at the infancy of the internet and when a lot of people were starting to get personal computers, so not everybody was thinking about the radio. But as I was thinking back about Mary and how she exists in the Pokemon universe as a character, I sort of came to the realization that in the modern video games where we get streamer characters like Gaiano and Kanari, Mary was basically the predecessor in Gold, Silver, and Crystal. Think about it, if Mary made an appearance in a modern Pokemon setting, she would totally be hosting a podcast. But even in the generation that she originally appeared in, she was sort of meant to be a part of this outdated means of entertainment. The Kanto region, and by extension the Johto region, are very inspired by an older idea of Japan. We see this a lot in the style of the anime, as well as things like official artwork that was released back then, and of course just overall the concept of the video games. And it all makes sense when you take into consideration the fact that it was very much inspired by a lot of the original creators' childhoods. And with the Johto region already being a lot older and traditional as compared to the Kanto region, Mary being a famous celebrity because she hosts a radio show is totally in line with that idea. For being a character who's buddies with Professor Oak as well as someone who's present during the climax of the story, it is really interesting that we didn't get any official 2D art for Mary as compared to some of the other characters in this game. Though that doesn't mean Ken Sugimori didn't draw her, because there were 3 different cards in the TCG all illustrated by Sugimori. The first one is titled Mary, which shows her inside the radio tower broadcasting something. Maybe it's her show with Professor Oak and he's just on the other end, or maybe it's some sort of promo that she's reading off. Then we have Mary's Impulse, which shows her out in the field along with a crew following behind, and this one's really interesting because I wonder what she could possibly be reporting on. Though the final card, and my favorite, is Mary's Request, which shows her conducting an interview with Jasmine, and look, Gamphy is even there. So overall, I really like how the artwork of these 3 cards shows different aspects of her all still broadcasting, just the different ways through which she does so. But interesting note I want to point out, the final one shows her wearing a sleeveless sweater as compared to the others, so a Pokemon character that actually has multiple outfits even though they're sort of similar. Thankfully she did actually have an anime appearance, in fact she has a prominent role in 2 episodes, the first one being titled Airtime. This is an episode where Ash and friends have arrived in Goldenrod City, and Ash has an interview as a Pokemon trainer with Mary. This is a fun episode, and the purpose of it is really to show off a radio tower fully realized, because it is a really iconic location from the video games. And really it also kind of serves as a celebration of radio in general, because not only do they conduct an interview, but later on they also have to perform a radio drama. Team Rocket is also there and they cause some mischief, but it's a fun episode overall. But the really hilarious appearance is later on in the Johto series, in the episode Will the Real Oak Please Stand Up? And this is an episode I discussed before when I talked about Imposter Professor Oak, and that is because the premise of the episode has Jesse and James disguising themselves as Professor Oak and Mary in order to get some special treatment, which goes well enough until the real Professor Oak and the real DJ Mary show up, and so there's just a bunch of funny interactions between them, which I really appreciated because while James and Oak are some important characters in the anime, they really haven't interacted with each other before this. Also seeing Jesse dressed up as Mary next to the actual Mary and just how much taller she is, and their interactions are really funny as well. But aside from another appearance in Pokemon Chronicles, that is about it. I think they did a good job of continuing to build her character, and highlighted some of the important aspects like the radio broadcasting as well as her friendship with Professor Oak. But as I'm about to wrap up this episode, I just want to give a shout out to the fact that she appeared in Pokemon Stadium 2, where she kind of introduced the Pokemon Trivia, which beyond all the minigames are one of the fun things that you can do because I'm always right and I always win that. Though I will say that last time I played, I did have some stiff competition from my brothers, but we should totally try to make the trivia tournament a thing amongst Pokemon fans. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below about DJ Mary and how she fits into the story of Pokémon Gold and Silver, as well as the overall feeling of Kanto and Johto. Do you think she should make an appearance in Modern Pokémon, and how do you think that'll go? For sure, she should totally come back with a podcast and interview Kanari and Iono and try to have them squash their beef. If you enjoyed watching, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and hype up the video if you're on mobile. But anyway, right now I should get back to working on my own personal broadcast, which is this dumb little YouTube channel that you all seem to really like. Thank you! Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, including the Great Gators, Benjamin, Oi Kareem, Justin Dowes, Jackson Stefaniak, Reclaimer, Cosmo Zero, Alex with Shiny Hunts, Starshooter, KoiKoi13, Cheez-It62, GatorKid509, TF, Mathaclog947, Taijirai, and Quago. If you would like to support, see your name here, get access to emotes, for comments, live streams, sometimes early videos, and our members' Discord server, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky as well for more memes. Anyway, this is GatorX, and I will catch you all later.
Discover the world of Johto with Pokémon Gold and Silver. Tons of new Pokémon, new challenges, new badges to collect. Pokémon Gold and Silver for Game Boy. Gotta catch 'em all. And now, see all these Pokémon in 3D in Pokémon Stadium 2.